In this lesson, we're going to begin discussing printing. If you'd like to follow along, go under the File menu to Open, and in the Sample Files folder, scroll down to 1501, a dialog about printing, and just click Open. Let me just scroll this over a little bit and go to File, Print, which opens the Print dialog box. And we're going to go through each of the sections. First, you can pick your printer. I only have one printer that's hooked up to this computer, so that's all that's available. In the General section, it's things that you would see for just about any printing dialog box. Number of copies. Do you want to collate? Well, it's only one page, so it's not going to collate it. Or do I want to print in reverse order, which will print from the end to the beginning? Number of pages. Do I want all of my pages to print or just a range? Do I want a sequence of pages, like just the even pages or just the odd pages or all of my pages? Do I want to print in spreads? Do I want to print master pages? Sometimes you do. You may want to see what's on your master page and what it looks like when it gets printed. What are my printing options? Do I want to print various layers, like visible and printable layers, or just visible layers, or all layers? Let me go back to visible and printable. Do I want to print non-printing objects, things that normally wouldn't print? Do I want to print blank pages? If you do, you check it. If you don't, it's unchecked by default. Do I want to print my visible guides and baseline grids? So if they're showing, they will print if you check this checkbox. Let me go into Setup. Once again, this is very similar to any print dialog box. For Setup, what's the paper size? The media? Gives you the width and height. How do you want the layout oriented to the paper? I mean, obviously that's not going to print on this media, but if I want to, I can print it upside down. So I have a choice of how it's going to be oriented to the paper. Do I want to scale it? If I scale it, do I want to constrain proportions? Probably. Do I want to scale to fit the paper? So the entire layout will fit on the page within the printable area. How do I want to position the layout on the page? Do I want thumbnails? How many thumbnails do I want per page? Let me go back to the right orientation. Do I want a tile? Which means possibly the layout does not fit on the paper. You can tile it to print it out in pieces and then put it back together. And you can actually specify an overlap. So it makes it easier to piece it together. Let me uncheck Tile and go to the next section, which is Marks and Bleeds. What printer's marks do I want? If I want all, I could just check all. If I want just crop marks, I could check that, and so on and so forth. Bleed and slug. Do I want to use my document bleeds? Well, I have it checked, but there are no bleeds in this particular document. Do I want to include my slug area? You remember when we were setting up pages, you can include a slug area down the bottom, or any one of the sides. And if I want to include that in what gets printed, I would check Include Slug Area. Let me go to Output. How do I want this to output? Do I want composite gray because this is a grayscale printer? Or if I was working with an RGB printer, I could choose composite RGB or composite CMYK for a CMYK printer. I could also make separations, and you can see as soon as I do that, I get all of my plates and I can print them one at a time. And I can even make a negative directly from this print dialog box. Let me uncheck that. Let me go back to Composite Leave Unchanged. Sometimes when you print something out, you can't read the text. If that's the case, you can check Text as Black. Let me uncheck that. And let me go to the next section, which is Graphics. If you have images in this document, do you want to send all of the data for images, even though the images may be much larger than what they are in your layout, or do you want to optimize them for the size that they are in your layout? So that would be much quicker. Do I want to just print a proxy, which will be a low resolution version of your image, or no images at all? I'm going to leave it on Optimize Subsampling. Fonts. Do I want to download all of a font? Or do I want to make a subset, which will only download the glyphs that are being used? Or I could choose not to download any of the fonts at all. Let me go into color management. I can let my PostScript printer determine the colors or not use color management at all. Let me go into advanced. The big thing in here is transparency flattener. Do I want to do it at medium resolution, high resolution, or low resolution? This will not only determine the quality of the transparent areas, but also how quickly it's going to print. And at the end, there is a summary. Now, you could save this summary so you can look through it later to see what your settings were, or you could actually click Save a Preset and name the preset if you're planning on using these same settings over and over again. Let me just hit Cancel. The preset would be available in the pop-up next to Print Preset. So you don't have to set this up again and again each time you want those settings. Now, all you have to do to print is hit Print, and you're on your way. In upcoming lessons, we'll continue discussing printing and preparing your layout for press.